As a rule, Americans in particular underestimate how the different parts of what it means to be human overlap, entwine, influence each other. When we find ourselves feeling out of balance, usually one, and therefore all, of these parts are misfiring in some way. When I was a hospice chaplain, there were 3 categories that we evaluated patients by. We'd look at their physicality. How do they look? Were there any physical things today that weren't there before? Have their physical abilities improved or declined? We'd look at their mentality or social emotional. Were they happy, sad, lonely, engaged, disengaged? And their spiritual self. Did they seem at peace? Did they have a belief system? What do their beliefs say about death and their proximity to it? Even in this fully secular setting, hospice sees a value in the relationship between these 3 aspects of self. They look to these markers to evaluate patients as they neared the end of life. These different pieces and the services that went along with them were all attributed with creating comfort for people near the end of their time. But for those of us nowhere near that phase, each of these takes their turn being neglected in our lives, some dismissed entirely as unimportant. The fact that you're here would seem to indicate that you give some importance to each of these parts of yourself. Missing Peace as a community attempts to give each one its due in order to nurture the whole self as part of being a child of the divine. A God that I believe desires for you to be well and happy and fully alive. We hope these practices provide space for you to do that, both here and in your life outside this space. Each of our practices takes a focus, either on the physical, spiritual, intellectual, or serving. But we hope you'll notice the presence of all of them, a deeply connected, interwoven fabric in any one of our gatherings. May you experience them deeply and be transformed by the opportunity to love yourself and others through these practices. May you be aware of a God who is intimately present with you as you move through postures in community. May you experience deep gratitude for your physical self and all the unique and magical events that came together to make you. May you come to know and appreciate the teachers who invite you into this discovery, both those of today and those of thousands of years ago pondering the divine. There's this great story in the book of John that I don't think I've ever heard anyone preach on, and I bet you can guess why. But the story goes, there's these religious folks, and they're going to stone Jesus for calling himself divine, God. And he quotes some ancient holy writings that are revered by these religious folks that say, "You are all gods." Saying that we are all gods and Jesus too, so why would he be stoned for claiming that? I might get stoned for claiming that. Jesus was acutely aware of his divinity, but also that of each child of God. Each of us is made in the divine image. He virtually dared us to live into that through all of ourselves, strength, heart, mind, or as we say at Missing Peace, physical, spiritual, cerebral. Similarly, the practice of Tai Chi invites us into a mindfulness that's cerebral, into the movement that's physical, and the peacefulness that's spiritual, making it an ideal expression to emphasize the fullness of humanity, the mission of Missing Peace, and the teachings of an ancient rabbi. Thank you to Ludi Lelis, who's here with us to invite us into a practice in sharing her gifts as a black belt in Tai Chi. And may each of us be open to what these movements and their meaning have for us today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ludi.